Welcome back to another episode of the Women and Money Cafe. So today on the sofa, Michelle and I have brought a friend along, and it's someone we think could be really useful and really helpful for all of us to get to know better. So we're joined today by Debbie, who's from Southbourne Accountancy. So Debbie is a management accountant and, wait for it, a financial coach, which makes her a cool accountant. So she's got 15 years of experience of helping businesses. And we invited Debbie into the cafe because I got chatting with her the other week and she blew my tiny mind. I don't know about your experience of accountants or your perception of accountants, but mine has been you give them a lot of paperwork, they disappear for a while, and then they come back and they say, you owe them that much. And that is the start and the end of the conversation. And then Debbie told me what she does with the people that she works with. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. So we thought we'd ask Debbie along just to chat about how do you find a really good accountant? What do really good accountants do? And just sort of get the lowdown. Because you know how what we do for a living is a bit of a mystery to you. Well, accountants are a bit of a mystery to us. So this is a chance for us to find out everything. So Debbie, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for describing me as a cool accountant.
Michelle, what do you think? She's a cool accountant, as a show.
Definitely a cool accountant. And it's always nice to understand an accountant's world because it's definitely not our world.
Yeah. So Debbie, you heard me sort of describing what I believe is a typical experience of an accountant. What are you thinking as you hear me say that?
I just want to distance myself from that belief as much as possible because that's not what I believe an accountant is. It's certainly not where my passion lies, and it's not how I work with my clients. So it's definitely something that I don't want to be associated with. And occasionally you kind of go, I'm an accountant, because you know what everyone thinks when you say it.
Do you know what? I think Michelle's going to hold a hand up as well. We have that experience when introducing ourselves as financial advisors because there's what people think they are and then there's what we are.
Yeah,
And there's a gap.
definitely.
Okay, so I know that you work with really specific kind of clients. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about who you work with? And then we can dive into the detail of what you do that's different to everybody else.
So I focus on working with businesses within the fitness industry, a lot of gym-based businesses, but also people who are like videographers and women's wellness, PT coaches. So people all around the fitness industry. And I do have a few clients, one lady who makes candles, which I really enjoy working with her because it's just different to the other stuff that I do.
I think you told me about the candle lady when we got chatting. And is she the one that you came up with ideas with and you got a bit more involved? All right, tell us more about that because that was really cool.
Yeah, that's the one we were speaking about. So I went round to her house to prepare her accounts for year end, just because it's like she's local, so it's quite nice to go and do a bit of face to face. Generally, everything's via Zoom otherwise. And we were talking about her product and seasons coming up. And I said, well, Valentine's Day is coming up. And she said, well, we're going through a recession. People haven't got money. Candles are a luxury. People aren't going to buy. And I was like, well, let's go through that and where that mindset comes from. If people are not going to buy, they're not going to go out for dinner. Maybe they will be getting like a supermarket, let's not name one, like meal deal, eating in. So maybe they want a nice candle to make that a bit more romantic. Mother's Day is coming up. People want to buy nice presents. Mums can relax, maybe in a bath. And so it's thinking of things in a different way, not just thinking we haven't got money, thinking, actually, maybe candles are now the thing because we can't go out, maybe. So maybe we're eating in more and we can change the mood with the candles. And she was like, I'd never thought of that. So I suggested she kind of got a calendar and went through it and picked out all the dates that she could associate candles with. And yeah, she did that. And she put out a special Valentine's Day promotion all around the business and the candles as an extra like boost to the business. And it makes me excited, like talking about those things, not talking about, oh, you can claim that in your tax bill, which is good because no one wants to pay too much tax. We all want more money in our bank. But the things that excite me are looking at the business, helping the business owner to look at it in a different way and make more money for them to then actually make it more worthwhile for them.
I just loved it when you were telling me about the candle lady, how having a conversation with her and helping her understand how she could expand her business and what the opportunities were within it. So, if I was to ask you, what do you think makes a good accountant?
So you have the basic concepts of accountant being knowing the accountancy rules and knowing the tax rules and keeping up to date. Obviously, that's all important. But what I like to do is actually work with the business owner and have an interest in their business and just encourage them to look at things differently. So we can look at their cash or like marketing, how does your leads convert? So what I think makes a good accountant is really understanding the business, understanding what the business owner is trying to achieve from their business, because some business owners want to achieve 500,000 turnover, some don't. And there's no point me pushing a business owner to do that if that doesn't align with their personal goals. So a good accountant would understand those goals, what the business owner is trying to achieve with that business, and then using the different types of things we can do, looking at, say, revenue or cash or profit or tax efficiency to help the business owner to achieve that.
Right. How do you go about finding out more about the business then and about what's important to the owner?
So it's through the initial conversations with the client. So when I do a proposal meeting, we have one that's just like really basic, get to know, would we actually be a good fit for each other? And then the second one is more around what's your goals, what's your ambitions, what are you trying to achieve, what do you want to achieve in the next 12 months? And then the proposal can come from that. So it's me understanding the business before we even sign up to them. And then regular communication, and generally in regular communication with all my clients. And as an addition, there is a separate service where we specifically go through their goals and how that aligns to the business. And one of my clients is just about to, next couple of months, look at buying a property. And that's what we discussed in the meeting last March. And then we put things in place for him to go off and achieve that. So, in a few months' time, that's what he's going to do. And that's really exciting.
Well, that kind of ties back into on a previous episode, I'm sure we've had conversations with Jennifer about when you're planning on buying a house and how important it is to get the accountant involved because we need to be able to demonstrate that there's sufficient income there from an affordability point of view. And so I think maybe my thought was, well, you just tell the accountant, but it sounds like you're really ingrained in your clients' lives about understanding. You said there about asking them what their aspirations were. I
Yeah.
don't think any of my clients have ever been asked that question by an accountant.
Yeah, it's just something that I speak about at this, like even before we sign a contract, because it's important to understand where the business is going. Because some clients, some business owners, they're just going to want basic tax advice. They don't want their accountant getting involved. And by me asking those questions, it then becomes clear if we're aligned or not. Because
Yeah.
I don't just want to do the accounts. And if someone wants that kind of accountant, then there's no point working with me. And that's important to understand what people want. And
You
so that
sound like
helps.
the accountant version of us. You're just damn nosy and you want to know everything.
Yeah, I do. That's what I really like. I really like, I talk to my clients now, talk about their kids or their partners and holidays they're going on. Yeah, I'm nosy, I guess.
Refreshing way of looking at accountancy because I say I have never, had any clients who've said their accountants have asked those questions, but it is really important. And you both then have a vested interest in the business, I assume. So you both want to drive it forward and you're working to the same goal.
Yeah, that's it. It's you do. There is the slight issue sometimes if you're too invested because you think, oh no, like maybe something's not going as well as it should be for whatever reason. But I would rather that than have no involvement at all. I would rather be like, oh no, like December went really bad, the membership's dropped. like, oh no, what can you do to improve that? And then when they do win, like I remember my client in January when I think his turnover went up 38% from the previous month. And it was like, I messaged him straight away, like, oh my God, it's gone up to this. And he was like, yeah, no, thanks. I would much rather that than be a little bit more invested than not at all.
That's so cool that you're sharing that. But do you know what I'm wondering? Because I'm just damn nosy. Is that when you left accountancy school, if such a thing exists, but were you just like this from the start, or is it something you've kind of evolved into?
So I guess I'm different to some accountants in that I'm a chartered management accountant. So all my training was in corporate. I started as a project accountant, and that meant that I was instantly thrown into the world of working with engineers, project managers, supply chain, HR, and finance. And so I was instantly thrown into the world of maybe being one or two of the only finance people within the team because we were in
Mm.
program teams. And that's the way I built my career up was through that basis. And so we were encouraged to ask questions, work with the program leads, get involved. Like you had this much, real loyalty to the program you were on and the success of that program. So yeah, I guess I was trained in being involved rather than just sat in the side with finance.
Right. Now that makes sense because I think sometimes you think of the accountant relationship and it can feel a little bit sterile. But what you've done is you've just completely brought it to life and it feels like you're almost ingrained in some of your clients' businesses and, and mentally invested in them as well. So as I'm sitting here now thinking, bloody hell, why aren't they all like you? And then I think if anybody else is listening, they're like, oh my God, I want one that's like that. So if we were going out shopping for accountants today, me and Michelle, don't worry, our accountants aren't getting fired. But but if we were accountant shopping and we're speaking to a few of them, what would be some good questions for us to ask them to try and ascertain how they work?
So if I was looking for an accountant, I would first want to check the legal side. So just make sure that they've got insurances in place, they're registered, those kind of basic steps, because no one's ever asked me. And I've seen some dodgy stuff from accountants who are accountants. So I would just check that those things are in place because then
How
there's
do we
someone
check them then?
you can ask to see like who's your indemnity insurance with, who are you registered with. So I'm on the SEMA website. If you searched for me,
Right.
I'm there and I'm part of their MIP program. So member in practice. So you could complain to like my professional
Right.
body if I done something wrong. So yeah. And it's like you see these accountants with like the email addresses like at Google Mail, and I'm like, I wouldn't be handing my very expensive business over to someone with an at Google Mail email address. But anyway, so I always suggest that people should speak to the accountant and speak to a few because not always going to get on with, say there are people, not everyone will get on with me and they'll be better suited to maybe another accountant. And by speaking to a few, you can see who you relate to and who you could work with because it's really personable. Like I'm going to know how much your business is making. I'm going to know if it's going up or down. I'm probably going to know about some of your personal stuff as well. So you need to feel comfortable with that person. So I would always speak to a few to gauge how you feel working with them. You can then ask for testimonials. So like you said, and being part of the team, one of my clients gave me a testimonial saying, it's long distance, but Debbie just feels like part of our team. And so you could ask for testimonials, stalk them on social media, and then you
I
get
like
to
that.
understand their personality. And you can ask your accountant what is involved in the contract they're giving you. So if it says compliance work, which is just like accounts and tax, you could say, oh, if I wanted to ask about tax planning, or if I wanted to ask about forecasting or how profitable my business is, would you charge me for that? And if so, how much? Because it might not be that you need it right now, but maybe you'll need it in 6 months, a year. So it's useful to kind of know how they're charging. And some accountants will charge for little questions and some won't. So it's worth just asking exactly what is included in the proposal that they're giving you.
All right, that's really good because I didn't know this stuff. So as I listen to you talk, what I'm wondering now then is you were saying they'll say compliance. And I think in my head, that's probably the thing I thought that's all they did was the compliance bit. So I didn't get there were other services that accountants could provide. So what other sort of services might I want to be asking?
So the amount of services you would want would depend on where you are in your business.
Hmm.
The things that I do with my clients are we might have management accounts, which are effectively your accounts, but produced on a monthly or quarterly basis. And you would look at how's the profit growing? How is that in relation to your revenue, etc. And I have quarterly meetings with those clients via Zoom where we talk through the profit and loss of the balance sheet, but not down to not like the lines, items, but just in general, I will provide an overview of how I feel the company's going, where I can see costs growing. Is that growing in line with revenue? And we would have conversations around things that are important to them in line with their goals. So that's like management accounts is the technical word. And you might have a management account meeting. And then you might have cash forecasts, which is basically just for the next 12 months or 3 years, depending what period you need it over, what's your cash profile look like? So what's your income? What's your outgoings? Because I think I work with gyms a lot. They're very seasonal.
Right.
And some people see loads of money come in January, February, get very excited, go and buy loads and loads of equipment. And then it will come to say March, April, May, and suddenly the money's not there. But because they haven't got a forecast going out, they don't really think about it. They don't realise that. And then you say, well, your VAT bill's due and your corporation tax bill was due. And they're like, oh,
Shit.
but there was money in my bank. So I spent it. You're like, so a forecast is actually one of the things that I think that pretty much everyone should have. Just outline what you think your income is going to be and all your cash outgoings. Because there's always bulk ones, isn't there? Like VAT every quarter, corporation tax. Then if you're going to pay yourself dividends, which I was going on about today on socials because of the allowance changing. So yeah, cash forecast, management accounts, regular meetings with your accountant is probably a good one. Even if you don't have a report, you can just ask them questions, and like a tax planning meeting because it's coming up to end of tax year, which I'm sure you're well aware of. And things are changing. Come April, the government's changing a lot. And everyone goes, I don't want to pay so much tax. I don't want to pay so much tax. They try and do little dodgy things. Don't do those. Just use your allowances properly.
All right. So I think it must have been one of your posts that I saw. You were talking about costs in the business.
Yes.
And I'd actually had to go through that exercise myself. I think I did it last month on a spreadsheet where I'm just like sitting, sort of looking at each one and thinking, right, do I need this? What purpose is this serving? And you did a post all around this. And I'm going to guess this is the kind of thing that your conversation you're having with your clients then when you're sitting down having review meetings and you're just sort of sense checking things with them and making sure that everything's on track. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. And I put a post up yesterday thinking, oh, I'm a bit bossy, which I think I can be sometimes. My client had emailed me and she was paying for Zoom, Canva, Microsoft, and there was another one. I can't remember what it is now, but she was paying for them monthly, which meant that she was paying higher costs and she had more invoices, which meant it took her longer and which meant I charged her more. So for the privilege. So she actually went and changed them all to annual because she needs them in the business. So she might as well take a cost saving and reduce the amount of invoices or receipts and save some accountancy costs. And so that was like one thing where we go through it and it's like, why are you paying for this monthly? Like if you want to reduce your costs, pay annually because she's got the cash there. And yeah, it was just funny for her to email going, I do listen.
I love that because it's just like such a top tip. It's less faff and it's saving you money.
Yeah.
Like a whole new world, isn't it? Because it's things that I suppose, are common sense to an extent, but we don't do that. And actually, you're talking about things that I've never heard accountants talk about in my life, and I've had a fair few dealings with accountants, but yeah. And it's like, okay, and I'm actually sat here going, what do I pay for on a monthly basis? What comes out of me?
Yes. Yeah. It's just lost my train of thought there.
That's all right. No, what I'm thinking is really interesting. I listened to you talk, Debbie, and I'm like, do you know what? I do all of this in my personal money. I'm maybe not as smart with my business.
I had a coaching call with a woman a couple of weeks ago, and it's the exact same, like personal stuff on it. And I was like, right, let's go for your business costs. And I was like, what memberships are you in? And she listed them. I was like, right, do you participate in them? She's like, no. It's like, okay. Shall we review them then? Which ones are valuable to you? Which ones could you get involved in more? Which ones, keep a couple more months, get involved, then make a decision. Put the date in the diary and think about it, because there's no point being in 6 memberships if you can't attend any of the training, don't attend any of the calls, don't participate. It's just, and she's like, I do this in my personal life, but in my business, that just never occurred to me.
Isn't that interesting that we can just have completely different personalities depending on the context? I suppose that leads me on to another question that I've got for you. Now, obviously, Michelle and I, like the thing, listeners, everybody, all of us have been through the same financial coach training, which is why we're all getting on so well, why we think Debbie's super cool. Right. So, Michelle, you'll be the same as me, that we'll see people get little mental blocks when it comes to certain aspects of their finances, don't they?
Definitely.
And it could be anything from looking to invest for the first time, making decisions what to do with a pension, and it's just complete block there and things just go off the rails. So I'm just wondering, from your point of view, Debbie, what are the most common blocks that you see with the people that you work with?
So there are a few kind of brackets. We kind of put brackets on ourselves almost. Say in corporate land or in employment, maybe you earn 40, 50, 60 grand, whatever. You get this thing like, I want to just earn employed. And then you kind of sit around that because you can't seem to get any further. And then the next one tends to be that threshold, because that is scary to some people. Just the technicality behind it. What am HMRC going to do? What can I claim? But also around, there is like a money mindset block in that. Yeah, how can I increase my price? Do I have to absorb it? Is it going to cost me? Am I going to be too expensive for people? Will they not want to buy with me anymore? And so they get stuck. They kind of block their business. I've actually seen people purposely stop selling and stop their business at sort of 83K so they don't have to go VAT registered. And I'm like, if you're going to hit 150K, just go for it. Just go for it. Don't allow the VAT threshold to keep you stuck. Just go get it, go smash it. You're restricting yourself for no reason. And it is a really big one for 2 reasons. And you can see therefore why people get stuck.
All right. So how do you help people that are in that situation? Because I'm going to guess there's a few listening.
There probably is, because it is quite a common one. So it is around working with them around, there are the practical sides. So what I've done with some of them is we've looked at the pricing, and I have looked at competitors' pricing. Not that I think you should price the same as a competitor, but it is a good benchmark. So we looked at the competitor's pricing, and actually he was like £20 a month cheaper. And I was like, oh, so that means you're 20% worse than them then. Your service isn't as good. And he was like, no. My service is much better. My gym is better. And I'm like, oh, it's not reflective in the price there. And he ended up sending out a letter with the price increase. And he said, thank you for giving me the confidence to go forward with it. Because he just needed like a bit of a push. He just wanted a bit of reassurance, really. For some people, it's going through the numbers and showing them that actually, keep going. The way you're going, you're going to hit 150K revenue anyway. So you might as well go for it, because actually, by restricting yourself, you're only earning this much profit. If you go for it, you're going to earn this much profit. So where do you want to be? It's like the people that say they don't want tips on the card because they don't want to pay the tax. So they want 100% of nothing rather than 50, 60% of like a tenner. So the same mindset. And for other people, it's talking about where that fear comes from. And is there any other is there any other beliefs around the VAT threshold? I certainly restricted myself because I had this belief around greed and wealth distribution, which kept me stuck. So,
Right, I can see you getting really animated there. And I'm like,
sorry.
no, this is good, because I think, who would have thought that we would be getting all passionate about that? And it's just, it sounds to me like this is a really big thing between people having a business that provides for them, more or less, and one that really can start to build true financial security. And it's this arbitrary figure that people don't want to go past. And what you do is you help them move past that figure and into the realms of true financial security.
Yeah.
That's
Well, you
really
think,
powerful.
well, you think
Really powerful.
the guy that went from £80 a month to £100 a month, like that's more than the VAT anyway. And he did lose the 11% membership, but he was making a good return on him. Like his lead conversion was really high anyway. So actually he lost a load, which were a pain in the ass ones anyway. And the people he then got back were paying the higher rate and appreciated what he was doing more. So actually he's got a better business, making more profit. Yeah, he's hit that threshold, but he's well surpassed that anyway. And he's left with a better business, more profitable. So it was kind of a no-brainer.
Well, that is. It's cool. Michelle, what do you think as you're listening to your eyes being opened up to a whole new world of accountancy?
Definitely to a whole new world of accountancy. It's just seeing it from a whole different view, because it is similar to what we do, but in a whole different realm of finance, I suppose. So as somebody who in the past has gone from employed to self-employed, there is a mental block. And as much as I know about money and as much as I know about coaching, actually having someone say to me, why do you not think you can earn more than that? Or when you get there, self-sabotaging yourself. But I've never heard that from an accountant. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I've never heard accountants speak about that. And I think it's so powerful to all of your clients that you are able to work with them and get them through that situation, because, as much as we can, Julie and I know money, that's what we do, but we still have our own money blocks. So to be able to work with an accountant who can do that. Do you find that that is the norm for most accountants that you know?
No, not in terms of the money coaching side and understanding the blocks, because, until a couple of years ago, I obviously done the strategic side, like the forecasting and all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't until a few years ago I thought, why can't I move my business forward? Why are my clients not listening to me? And so we would do the stuff together and we'd get progress and things would move on, but it didn't feel like it was as transformational as I wanted it to be. So I went off into like looking at development. I'd always been like self-development, but I went down that path, looked into it more, discovered mindset stuff, and then into money mindset. And then I'd done my training, and obviously you uncover all your own money beliefs and blocks. And I could see, that's why I'm not selling, because I believe this and that. So yeah, I qualified and I do still go to the coaching sessions because I feel like all practice is good. And yeah, that's then when I started bringing it into my business more, and then seeing transformation where my clients it's not just financial. They're saying to me, I'm more confident. I have confidence in, like, one of my clients just changed her pricing and she hasn't changed it for 6.5 years, even though in that time she also went VAT registered. And she's like, you've just given me the confidence to go forward with increasing my prices and the confidence around understanding where the business is, because I've never known where the business is. And so I've been able to look at that more transformational kind of emotional, personal stuff through, I guess, my own discovery. So no, there are not lots of accountants going down that path. And I was once told that people don't want that, Debbie. They just want their own accountant. And I was like, oh, okay.
Debbie, people do want that. They do. So I'm just really grateful to have met you and to you for coming on and sharing all this. So as I do kind of a recap, it's one of the things is, like, if you listen to this, has your accountant ever asked you, what are your aspirations? going to guess that's a no. And then, Debbie, your top tips for finding an accountant is, first of all, check the basics. So we're allowed to ask them to see who they're insured with. Apparently, that's an okay thing to do. I didn't know. Go and check that they're registered. Debbie, where should we check that the accountant's
You
registered?
can ask the accountant what professional body they're with, and then you
Correct.
can check within the professional body.
Okay, so check that. So that's sort of your basic mandatory requirements. And then I think the other top tip was about asking them the other services that they provide and what's chargeable and what they might do for nothing. And the other one I liked that you said was to ask for a testimonial, because if they've got anything about them, they're going to go and find the best client testimonial and show you that. If they show you one that says, he told me how much he charged, I owed them at the right date, then we're probably not talking a Debbie type accountant here, are we? If that's what the testimonials are filled with. So I just think, like you were saying, Michelle, it sounds a bit like us, doesn't it?
It's so similar to what we do. And having the outlook of working with the client fully, you're getting in their world and you're looking at not just the bit that you look at, but you're actually getting in their head, I suppose. And actually you're helping them move.
Yeah,
There can only be a benefit to that.
And it's this idea of just building this long-term security within the business and helping people push on to the next level. It's just really cool, Debbie. I don't think you realised how cool you are, did you?
No.
Is this news for you?
Yeah, to me, it just makes sense.
Right. So is there anything else that you would want to share with the listeners as we wrap things up?
I guess the only thing I'm thinking of, because I was like going on about it today on socials, is about the dividend allowance. I know it's like people like boring, but
Not to us. Go for it.
got dividends. I'm going to calculate my profit at the end of the month and declare my dividends, because the dividend allowance of 0%, like you can take the first $2,000 at 0% tax, and they're cutting the allowance in the next tax year. So you definitely want to make the most of it in this tax year. And so I'm doing mine at the end of the month. I'll check what my profit is and I'll draw down my dividends. So yeah, I spoke to someone this morning. He's just signed up, the one whose name was spelled wrong. Oops. Yeah, so I spoke to someone this morning. He was talking about how he can utilize, be tax efficient in his business. I questioned whether he'd drawn down dividends, and he was like, no. Do I have to do it by a certain time? And I was like, yeah. You want to get it in this tax year to use this allowance, then next year you've got the £1,000 allowance. So I kind of thought, oh no, people are going to miss it. Like, again, you think people know these things, and they obviously don't. They're not in the boring tax world. So yeah, use your allowances.
Okay, so that's stopped it there. And also I would say to people, you can go and follow Debbie. Debbie, what's your favourite social media platform that we should come and check you out on?
Facebook.
And where can we find you on Facebook?
Just under Debbie Hancock on my personal profile. I do have a business account, which is Southbourne Accountancy, but mainly over on my personal account.
All right, so we'll put a link to all the places you can go and follow Debbie on social media and get more of her top tips, because they are good. Now, Debbie, as we wind up, we like to ask our guests a random question sometimes at the end. Okay, don't worry, it's nothing too scary. But what I was wondering is just, do you want to share with us what your favourite last book was?
What did I last read? I'm currently listening to
Right.
Melanie C's book on Audible or other platforms. Yes, I'm currently listening to Mel C's audiobook because, I was a Spice Girls fan. I was like 9 when they came out. So I remember all their songs. And then when they launched Channel 5, and I cut out all the pictures and stuck them in a little scrapbook. So it's really interesting, like hearing actually what happened behind the scenes and, Mel C's take on that. So that's what I'm currently listening to.
All right. Okay. Any other book tips for us?
So in terms of business wise, one of the first money books I read was You Are a Badass at Making Money, which is a really good one. And actually, you'll like this one, hopefully.
Okay.
I really like this book.
Oh,
The Meaningful Money Handbook.
Okay, so for the benefit of the tape, Debbie's holding up Meaningful Money by Pete Matthew. Okay, now we are big Pete Matthew fans. Should we give them a spoiler alert, Michelle?
Oh, I think we could just tease them a little bit with it. Couldn't we?
Oh, we might have a special guest lined up soon.
Oh,
Who might be connected to Meaningful Money.
that's
So-
a good one. Yeah.
So no, we're big fans of P. Matthew, and his podcast and his Facebook group are absolutely brilliant. So we would recommend. So I'll put a link to Mel C's book, You're a Badass, and Meaningful Money in the show notes as well. Okay, so as we wrap it up there, Michelle, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I don't think there is. I just think that actually you're an amazing accountant, Debbie. I just love your approach and love the way you are with it, and your clients are very lucky.
They are.
Thank you.
Right, so I hope that everybody's found this episode useful and you realise that there's a little bit more to accountants than we originally thought if you go and find a super cool one like Debbie. So we just say thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Debbie for joining us. And until next time, take care of yourself.
Thank you.